Hello everybody, this is Evan Rogers coming at you with another video teaching you some Japanese grammar. Alright, today we're talking about the passive. The passive is quite an intense thing to get over to learn. When you first start learning it, you're going to think, bah, this is easy. Evan, why'd you tell me this was difficult? And then as you learn more and see it more, you're going to be like, oh, this is actually a little bit tricky. And then you're going to get to a point where you're like, wait, this grammar doesn't make any sense to me. I could have sworn I actually learned it. And then you're going to say, oh, okay, I'm a little bit used to it, and finally I get it, and we're good. So, get ready for the roller coaster. This is the passive. When you see verbs ending in areru very, very, very frequently, or aremasu, it's the passive. Be sure to check out evanseasyjapanese.com. Alright, the passive areru. To begin, make sure you know how to read and write Japanese, duh. How to identify the stem of a verb, this is important. And how to make the plain form of verbs. You can find all this on my website. Please check it out. Let's talk about the passive voice in English. So the passive is actually a pretty simple concept. We take the object of a normal sentence and turn it into the subject of the same sentence. Or, yeah, I guess a different sentence, obviously. For example, I ate the cheeseburger. It was yummy. Turns into, the cheeseburger was eaten by me. One sounds a little bit more ominous, if you will. To do this in English, we put the verb in its past participle form, which is your eat, ate, eaten. And then we put an appropriate be verb in front of it, so was eaten. And also we flip the object and the subject. We have to adjust our word order, the object being the subject. And we have to change our prepositions. By me is necessary. This is how you do it in English. English loves the passive. Very frequently, you're going to find yourself speaking in passive voice. The more and more you listen and try to analyze your own English, you're going to hear the passive voice coming out of you left and right. The passive voice will have, I don't know, anyway, it doesn't work. Never mind. More English examples. My grandmother gave this to me, or gave me this, turns into this was given me by my grandmother. Usually at least in American English, we're going to say to me by my grandmother, but it's not necessary. This was given to me by my grandmother. He destroyed my buildings. My buildings were destroyed by him. He is going to shoot me. I am going to be shot by him. Notice all the be verbs, the am going to be shot, or were destroyed, was eaten, or whatever it was. She baked a cake for you. A cake was baked by her for you, which is actually a very uncommon sentence, but you get the drift, or the gist. That's how we do the passive in Inglesho. The passive in English, notice the subject was being acted upon in each sentence. This is important. The subject, that just does not fit on the page. Don't know what happened there. The subject really doesn't have a say in what's going on when we're using the passive form. It's like, the cheeseburger was eaten. That cheeseburger might not have wanted to get eaten, but he didn't really have a choice. He was eaten. That sort of feeling exists in English, and it definitely exists in Japanese. That feeling actually is very important in Japanese, that things are happening to the subject. Okay, so the passive in Japanese. The passive in Japanese is actually a little different, as I already mentioned. It can be used for the same purposes, but very commonly it's not. We'll discuss that later, obviously. Note, because the passive kind of verb... because the passive kind of implies that an action was done, verbs like wakarimasu or shinimasu, which function a little bit more like adjectives, don't really have passive forms. They do, but they're just not used very frequently. And I'm using very frequently, or they're not used much. I'm using that kind of generously. I don't think I've ever heard anybody use wakaretemasu like as a passive form. They can be used, but it's just much less common. The passive verb form. To make the passive sentences, you just need to figure out what verb group you're dealing with. Step 1, identify the verb group, and then if it's a group 1 verb, put the verb in its stem or in its plain form. So if you do the stem, it's going to end in an E sound. If you do the plain form, it's going to end in an U sound. Then change that last character to its corresponding A sound. So if it's ikimasu, it goes into ika. And then if it goes, if you have, I don't know, kiku, or kiki if you're doing the stem, kiki, it turns into kika. Or like if you're doing imas to say if it's an e or an u, it turns into a wa, so iwa. Then just add reru, so ikareru, iwareru, kikareru, things like that. It's that simple. That's how you make the verb. So here's some examples. The mas form is kikimas. The stem plain form is kiki or kiku. The plain passive is kika. So we change the ki and the ku to a ka because it's the corresponding sound, and then we add reru, so it's kikareru, to be heard, to be listened to. Yomimas, yomi, yomu, yomareru is read, something is read. Urimas, uri, uru, urareru, something is sold. Kao, kai, kao, whoops, I already had it in the, it's not even in the mas form, I'm an idiot. So just punch me. Is the song again? Whatever, we'll listen to the cool DJ Sona song. Kao, which the plain form is actually kaimas. Sorry, I didn't do that properly. Kawareru, will be bought, or could be is bought. Kikimas, or sorry, kakimas, I can't read my own kanji. Kakimas, kaki, kaku, kakareru is written. This is only one of the possible meanings. So it says one English meaning on the far right. Really, this is just one of the meanings. Remember that English has too many bleep and bleep bleep be verbs. Be, is, are, will be, was, had been, and it's just very annoying. Also, remember the plain form can mean the habitual does do something or will do something. So, you know, just keep that in mind. You should have already known that. And if you don't, watch my other videos, please! Alright, group 2 viboibs. Group 2, you just put them in the stem and add raredu. That easy. You're done. So, tabe raredu. Group 2 verbs in the passive look exactly like group 2 verbs in the potential. The potential form can be just reru, so tabereru. However, the passive cannot be shortened like that. So if you see rareru, or it could be the passive or it could be the potential, and it gets quite confusing. This is one of the reasons why I said earlier that it can be quite confusing, and that you're going to think, I know this really well, and then be like, whoa, I don't know this really well. Whoa, now we must fight. Huta! That's you fighting your Japanese, apparently. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Examples, mimas. The stem is just mi. So we add rareru as mirareru, miraremas is to be seen. Tabemas, tabe rareru, tabe raremas is eaten, was eaten, whatever you want to do with that. Tsukeru, tsukerareru is something is applied, something will be applied, blah, 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 blah. Kagiru, kagirareru will be limited. So, once again, same notice on the far right. Alright, group 3 verbs. Technically, there are only 2 group 3 verbs, but des is really weird, so I like to put him here. However, des, you're not really going to be making a passive form of des. Like, it had to been doesn't really, you know. Oh my goodness, it was been a dog-ified. You can't do that with a word like des, or with a word like is. So, generally, if you're going to be doing anything closely related to a passive, to the passive of is, you're going to be using the narimas verb, which is to become something. So like, he had to become something, or he will become something, which is going to be a group 1 verb. Otherwise, for the actual group 3 verbs, just memorize suru turns into sareru or saremas, and then kuru turns into korareru or koraremas. So just memorize those 2 and you're good. Boom. Alright, the Japanese passive is different than the English one. The normal passive, function number 1, the normal passive. This is what I showed you already. Just the object becomes the subject, and then it gets acted upon. So the direct object and the subject switch, they get acted upon, blah, blah, blah. I just said that. This is surprisingly less common than in English. It's less common in Japanese than it is in English. English uses the passive like this, like a maniac. For this pattern, the thing that was verbed gets a ga, wa, or mo particle because it's the subject. And the thing that did the verbing gets a ni. Now remember, this is function number 1. So when we're talking about, quote-unquote, the normal passive, we're talking about the subject is the one being acted upon, so it gets your ga, wa, or mo particle. And then the thing that acted upon it gets a ni particle. Here are some examples. Oh, no, I don't go into examples yet, sorry. The Japanese passive is different. Oh, I already said that. Function number 2. This is the actual, this is the more common function of the passive in Japanese. This is what we like to call the affective passive, or maybe even the adversative passive, which is kind of weird. Adversarial might have been a better adjective. You know, something that's crappily feeling. It has the feeling of crud. I didn't want that to happen. Alright, so in this function, the subject is affected by the action, not necessarily the person who gets a ni particle. So that's really kind of tricky, because we just learned that the ni particle tells you who's doing the action. However, in the affective passive, that's not exactly the way it goes. Usually in a negative, harmful, or unwanted way. So for this function, the thing that is affected, if mentioned, if not, usually the speaker is the one that's being affected, or it's understood, that thing gets a ga, wa, or a mo. The subject of an affective passive is a thing that's being affected negatively by the verb. The thing that did the action gets a ni. So just like the previous one, if your dog gets murdered by a maniac, then the maniac's gonna get ni. However, the thing that got verbed will get an o. So we could say something like, my dog was killed by a maniac. And in English, that's just the function number 1, normal passive. But in Japanese, we can do both. We could say, the dog ga, by a maniac ni, korosareta, was killed. Or we could say, I was negatively affected by the maniac killing my dog, would be like, oh, I feel, it sucks for me. Like, watashi ga, crazy maniac ni, inu o koroshimashita. In English with the particles, it'd be, I wa, crazy maniac ni, dog o was killed, korosareta. And that's a bit tricky because if you notice, when we did both of those, the subject changed, but everything else stayed the same. Even though it means the same thing, the grammar was different. Now let's get into more examples. So on the left here we have the Japanese sentence, in the middle we have a decent English translation, and on the right we have a type of the passive. So it's either the normal or the affective, or it can be both. So in the first sentence, taberareta, was eaten, it was eaten, and this could be I'm less than happy about it. So could be either the normal, if we leave off the aw crap feeling about it, it's just the normal passive. But if we have the aw crap it got eaten idea, it's the affective. The function number 2, kare ni korareta. This one has to be the affective because you can't like have I will come. Anyway, that could be that doesn't really, like, something isn't being acted upon. That's what I'm trying to say there. Something isn't being acted upon, thus this has to be the affective. Kare ni korareta. He came here and that screwed up my schedule, or something like that. So that's the affective. I didn't want him to come here, but he did. Sentence number 3, boku sensei ni yobareta. That's yobareta. That means to be called. I was called upon by the teacher. Notice we didn't have a ga, wa, or mo particle after boku. That's just because it's understood. Everyone knows that that's the subject. Boku sensei ni yobareta. So this is I was called upon by the teacher. It doesn't have to have a negative meaning, and if it doesn't have a negative meaning, it's definitely the normal. But if it does have the negative meaning, it could be the affective. Mikata no tawa ga hakai saremashita. You hear this a lot in League of Legends. Mikata, an ally. Mikata no tawa, an allied tower. Ga hakai saremashita. Hakai is destroy, so hakai saremashita is was destroyed. An allied tower was destroyed. This is definitely the affective because, or actually it could be the normal. I should have the word normal on there. You could just be saying a tower was destroyed. However, generally that means, oh crap, my friend's tower was destroyed, which is an affective. I feel bad that it happened to me. I didn't want that to happen. Thus, that one actually could be both, normal or affective. I apologize for not having normal written there. The next one, those 3 kanji right there are Son Goku, which is Son Goku, the main character of Dragon Ball, ga korosareta. Now pay attention to these last 2. Son Goku ga korosareta. Son Goku is the subject, korosareta was killed. Son Goku was killed. This is the normal. The subject of the sentence was killed. It's a normal one. This is flat out a normal because we're not specifying I feel crappy about it or someone feels crappy about it. But then let's look at the next one. Chichi wa, which is his wife, Son Goku's wife is Chichi. Chichi wa seru ni Goku o korosareta. So Goku o korosareta tells you that Goku was killed, but the reason why that gets an O, but the sentence above it gets a ga, is because this is the affective function. The person who is negatively affected by the death, obviously Goku's being affected by being killed, but we're also specifying specifically in the sentence that Chi-Chi, his wife, feels devastated by it too. Chichi wa seru ni Goku o korosareta. Who killed Goku? It looks like Chi-Chi did because we have Chi-Chi wa Goku o korosu, but that's not accurate because we're using the passive form of the verb. Chichi wa seru ni Goku o korosareta. Cell ni Goku o korosareta lets us know that Cell killed Goku and Chi-Chi feels bad about it. Chi-Chi was negatively affected by Cell killing Goku. This is 1,000,000% the affective, and this is the kind of sentence that's going to throw you off. Learn those two sentences. Those last two right there are fantastic examples of how screwy the Japanese passive is compared to the English passive. Let's do some more sentences. All right, Japanese sentence on the left, English in the middle, type of passive on the right. Kare ni itsumo, that's monku iwarete yada. Kare ni, by him, or he's the guy talking. Itsumo, always. Monku, mon is the first kanji, ku is the second kanji, and that means complaint. Now, there could be an O particle there. I left it out to throw you off, to make it confusing. So it could be kare ni itsumo monku o iwarete. The third kanji there, or sorry, the fourth kanji there is iwarete. So kare ni, let me bust up my little guy. So kare ni itsumo monku o, we could have an O there. O iwarete iyada. Iyada means that's annoying. Iwarete is to be told, or somebody says something. Kare ni, be told by him. Monku, a complaint. Oh man, it's annoying how he always complains and we're affected by it. We're not specifying who's affected by it, but because it's not written, most likely it's me or us or something like that. Alright, let's look at the next one. Jori-san ni shoutai saremashita. Sorry, let's be polite. Jori-san ni shoutai saremashita. I was invited by Mrs. Jolie. Jolie-san ni, so that's the one that is causing the action. Shoutai saremashita. The action is be invited. We don't exactly know who was invited, but it's understood because we didn't mention it that it's probably me or whoever we're talking about. I was invited by Mrs. Jolie. This is just the normal. I doubt being invited is such a horrible thing to happen. This is most likely not ineffective because being invited to a party is a good thing. Especially if it's by Angelina Jolie, am I right? Alright, that's inappropriate. Kurama ni butsukerareta. Kurama ni, by a car, butsukerareta, was hit. Something was hit by a car. I was hit by a car, most likely. It was hit by a car. Something was hit by a car. This is pretty much the normal. But being hit by a car sucks, so it's probably also the effective. The thing that was hit by a car could either get a ga, or it could get an O. If it gets a ga, it's a normal. If it gets an O, it would be an effective. If we said, Kurama ni girlfriend o butsukerareta, that's the effective, because we're saying what was hit would be the girlfriend by a car, and obviously I'm negatively affected by it. So that you're going to hear, Kurama ni girlfriend o butsukerareta. Oh crap, my girlfriend was hit by a car, that freaking sucks. But if we said, I don't know, girlfriend ga kurama ni butsukerareta, that would be the normal, and it'll just be my girlfriend was hit by a car. And it's obvious that you're negatively affected by it, but it's not the effective. Alright, akanbo ni nakareta. So this is an example of an effective. Nakareta would be was cry, because nakimasu is to cry, so be cry, be cried. That doesn't work in English. In English, that doesn't make any sense, but with the effective verb, it makes sense. Akanbo ni nakareta. The baby cried, and I was negatively affected by it. A baby is crying, or did cry, and it's annoying me, or it annoyed me. Thus, the subject of the sentence is what's being affected by the crying. Notice, this sentence doesn't make sense in Japanese. If this was the normal passive, it wouldn't make sense in English. Akanbo ni nakareta. It was cried by the baby? What the heck does that even try to attempt to mean? It was cried by the baby! Are we talking about a teardrop, maybe? Or we were talking about a teardrop then, I guess. That's not what Japanese is saying. We're saying the baby was crying and it annoyed the heck out of me. This is definitely an effective sentence. Okay? Moving on. 小さい時に両親に死なれました. So this is an example of a decent. You can use the shinu verb as a passive. It's just that it's the effective and it's a little bit less common. 小さい時に両親に死なれました. So this is an effective. 小さい時に when I was small, when I was young. 両親に my parents. 両親に my parents by my parents died. 死なれました. Notice the sentence in English, my parents died when I was young. My parents died when I was young. 両親に死なれました. 小さい時に. However, in English, we look at this and it's like, it was dead by my parents? At a small time, when I was young. When I was young, my parents... It was dead by my parents. This isn't, it was killed by my... This is dead. This is dead. It was dead by my parents? So that doesn't make any sense in English. When it doesn't make sense in English, it's an effective. 小さい時に両親に死なれました. My parents died at a young time, when I was young, and that sucked for me. My parents died when I was young, and it negatively affected me. Effective. Alright, let's check out. Yamada-san ni meiru o kakareta. This is another effective. Yamada-san ni meiru o kakareta. This could be the mail was written by, but then that would be the ga. If this was a normal passive, it would be meiru ga Yamada-san ni kakareta, which would literally just say the mail was written by Mr. Yamada. That would not have a negative feeling to it as much. Meiru ga Yamada-san ni kakareta would be less, oh crap feeling. This one is definitely an affective, oh crap feeling because it says, Yamada-san ni meiru o kakareta. That o is very important. That turns into the effective passive. Yamada-san ni meiru o kakareta. The mail was written by Mr. Yamada, and oh crap, that sucks for me. So the subject could be watashi. Watashi wa Yamada-san ni meiru o kakareta. I was negatively affected by Mr. Yamada's writing of the letter. Or change the subject to, I don't know, Son Goku. Oh man, when Mr. Yamada wrote that email, that totally screwed over Son Goku. He couldn't go Super Saiyan 4 anymore. So it could be Son Goku wa Yamada-san ni meiru o kakareta. So because Mr. Yamada wrote that letter, Goku got negatively affected by it. Welcome to the effective and normal passive examples. I hope this was insightful. This is a fun sentence that I and a native speaker came up with. Watashi wa ani ni yotte James ni watashi o shoukai sareta. So notice we have watashi in the sentence twice, which is kind of strange. The main chief subject is watashi wa. That's what everything after the wa is talking about. So watashi wa, regarding me, ani ni yotte James ni watashi o shoukai sareta. Wait, Evan, there's two knees there. Yes, indeed, there are two knees. The reason for this is that the verb is shoukai shimasu, which is to introduce. To introduce. When you're introducing somebody, which is the watashi introduced me, you get introduced to somebody. James ni shoukai shimashita. So I was introduced to James. I was introduced to James. And because we have this niyote, this one is definitely by my older brother. Ani niyote James ni watashi o shoukai sareta. Watashi wa ani niyote by my brother James ni watashi o shoukai sareta. I was introduced to James by my brother, and it negatively affected me. The sareta means negative affected me, and this is who it negatively affected. This would be a redundant sentence that doesn't need to be said, or not a redundant sentence. See, the watashis are all there. It's redundant. We don't need this watashi wa, but it could be there. Watashi wa ani ni yotte James ni watashi o shoukai sareta. I was rapidly introduced to James by my brother. I did not want to talk to James. My brother, what the heck were you thinking introducing me to him? What the heck, dude? Watashi wa ani ni yotte James ni watashi o shoukai sareta. This niyote is just a different particle. It just much more has the feeling of by in it. I chose niyote. It could just be ani ni James ni watashi o shoukai sareta. It'd be confusing because we wouldn't really exactly know who's who doing what. The niyote helps clarifies that up. Okay. If you have questions, ask them in the comments. I expect a barrage of questions. Please ask them. Oh, sorry. I guess I have more examples. Let's change some words. Samantha wa ani ni yotte James ni watashi o shoukai sareta. So we're changing the chief subject to Samantha. So this is the same sentence, just Samantha instead of watashi. Let's go back. So watashi wa ani ni yotte James ni watashi o shoukai sareta. But here we have Samantha wa ani ni yotte James ni watashi o shoukai sareta. Here, Samantha is being negatively affected by my brothers introducing me to James. I was introduced to James by my brother, and it rapidly affected Samantha. So the sareta with Samantha wa work together to say, and it negatively affected Samantha. Samantha wa ani ni yotte James ni watashi o shoukai sareta. I was introduced by James. Oh, sorry, to James. I misspoke again. Watashi o shoukai sareta, to James by my brother. Samantha didn't like it. Poor Samantha. Apparently she's making love with James, and we and James just met, and my brother knew about it. And my brother's like, hey, James and you guys need to totally meet. And he's looking at Samantha the whole time that he's introducing me to James, and Samantha's sitting there pissed off. Samantha wa ani ni yotte James ni watashi o shoukai sareta. So because I'm dating Samantha, and Samantha seeing James on the side, because apparently I'm a loser, and my older brother found out about it, he decided to have some fun and introduce me and James together. That's one translation of what's going on here. Samantha wa ani ni yotte James ni watashi o shoukai sareta. So Samantha was horribly negatively affected by my brothers introducing me to James. Samantha was negatively affected by my brother introducing me to James. All right. Oh, function number 3. Oh, geez, that's right. There's a third function. The honorific passive. If you use the passive like an active notice how in this one, this looks like it's an active. So, all right, so the songs played the same song again. It was really annoying. Okay, so if we look at this, notice how this is almost this. See how we have watashi o shoukai sareta, so introduced to me. How even though this is a passive, it sounds like he introduced me, right? So it sounds like an active verb. And because we have this active verb feeling, there is actually an active verb usage of the passive. When you use the passive as an active voice verb, when you're talking about somebody who's like really powerful or above you, this is honorific. You're speaking very politely about whoever's doing the action. In this function, the subject of the sentence is usually understood to be higher up than the speaker, like higher up on the chain of command. The verb is in the passive tense, but the sentence operates like an active sentence. In this function, the one that does the action gets ga wa or mo, just like any other normal active sentence verb. The honorific passive isn't quite as honor-giving as the special oni naru and related verb form. So if you're actually using keigo, like the actual honorific verb form, the honorific passive isn't as polite. But it's still polite. Okay, so sensei wa taberareta. Notice sensei is an important dude who's above you. Taberareta. This looks like the teacher was eaten, but really we're saying the teacher ate, and we're being polite about it. Susanoo wa ushioni o taosaremashita. Susanoo was a god, and he totally killed an ushioni, which is a cow demon, the ushioni, and Susanoo defeated, taosaremashita, taoshimasu, to defeat, to overthrow. Susanoo wa ushioni o taosaremashita. This looks like it's a passive, and it could mean Susanoo was negatively affected by the defeat of the ushioni, but we're going to take it to mean Susanoo defeated the ushioni, and we're happy about it, or it's just a regular old active sentence. He's not negatively affected by it. Nanji ni okiraremashita ka? This is most likely means you're talking to your boss. Nanji ni, at what time okiraremashita ka? Did you wake up? This is an active sentence. What time did you wake up, person who I respect? Alright, other references. These are some books that I looked through to make sure I got everything that I needed to get out of this lesson. Check out Japanese as Spoken Language, Book 3, Lesson 29A for more information, fantastic examples. or bust open your Yokoso book on your second book, page 274. The pages might be mistaken. I might have a different copy than you. But anyway, lesson 32 is where I had it, the passive voice. In your Genki book, book 2, the one that I have is page 208, lesson 21. Tai Kim's guide. I'll just go to his lesson list and search for passive and you'll find it. I'll try to link to it if I remember to do that. It's over. Thanks for watching the video. For more info... Wait, what? Check the video info for more info. I can't read. Be sure to subscribe, hit like, check out my Twitch, hit me up on Facebook, join Twitter, and check out my Patreon. Please! I would enjoy it if you donated to me. Here are some awesome pictures that I drew. This is Sailor Moon. It's pretty meh. The Sailor Mars I'm way more proud of. Hand stenciled in. These were given to somebody who donated to Patreon. If you donate $5 a month, I will send one out to you, your choice. Any anime character you like or non-anime character you like. I will send them out to you and you'll get a cool thing out of it. Or if you want to buy a copy of one of these guys, I don't have an exact copy, but I can hand sketch one or just print off one of these guys and just color one in for you. Let me know. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. Have yourself a good day. If you learned in this video, give this a thumbs up. If you didn't learn anything because you're a jerk, hit the thumbs down button. Share it with all your friends so I can get as much awesome publicity as possible. Thank you for being my advertising network. Wow, wow.